Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. In the aftermath of Deontay Wilder's loss in February, I did a video asking the question, can Deontay Wilder recover from his one-sided beatdown to Tyson Fury? After all, he was beaten up pretty bad over the course of 7 rounds. Humiliating loss. Could he bounce back? And that question, it was especially pertinent at the time because one thing was clear in the aftermath. He wasn't taking the loss well mentally, coming up with a litany of excuses, including the infamous one regarding the costume weakening his legs. And yes, he did say that few costume quote deniers. And I will be circling back at the end of this video to those direct quotes for those people who refuse to believe that he said that. And I know that there's going to be some things in this video that some people that are especially hardcore Deontay Wilder fans that have drunken the excuse Kool-Aid, they're not going to like this video. But you know what? Doesn't matter. This stuff has gotten so bad, so ridiculous. It's just time to go in, expose some of the nonsense, the silliness, and it's time for Deontay Wilder to just stop. Seriously. You're hurting your reputation, your credibility. It's out the window, and the new excuses and everything coupled together, which we'll get to, it is just beyond the pale. Ridiculous. It's so bad, it's funny. It's something else. And we're several months on now. The ego, Deontay Wilder's massive ego, hasn't recovered. That much is clear. And if anything, he has just doubled down or quadrupled down, however you want to put it. You know, saying that Tyson Fury and accusing him of cheating, directly alleging something was in the gloves, that it was the size of an egg weight. Also going on to take a swipe at the ref and then a swipe at the assistant, Mark Breland, again calling him disloyal. But if that wasn't enough, going a step further, giving an interview to a YouTube channel alleging that the water was spiked. So implicating Mark Breland, saying, my water was spiked as if I took a muscle relaxer or something like that. My water was tampered with. It was like I had no control over my body. My legs were weak. I think he's got something to do with my water as well too. I mean, I kid you not. It's just going from embarrassing to something altogether different. It is next level cringe. It is so bad, it's funny. And while it might play well with Wilder's own fan base, which has been creating fan fiction on his behalf since the Fury loss, the rest of the boxing community is looking at this in a perplexed manner, in astonishment and horror. You only have to take one peek at social media to see what I'm talking about. And the worst part is, Deontay Wilder truly and deeply seems to believe all of this. He doesn't seem to see that he's making himself into a laughing stock with this fresh barrage of excuses, all of which is serving to diminish his reputation and credibility even further. It is full-blown delusion of the highest order. And we know heavyweight boxers often have a degree of delusion, but this is next level. Clearly, his bruised and dented ego, as well as the head, has not recovered from the autopsy his brother claims that he underwent after the fight. But just for a minute, consider what we've heard in the days, not only after the fight, but in the recent times, I should say, from Wilder. And bear with me here, because I say all of this to illustrate a point. So we have these excuses. The loss was attributed by Wilder and also his trainer JD's to his costume being too heavy, weakening his legs. Wilder claimed that one of the Durrell brothers influenced the fight being stopped from the crowd. Wilder has also claimed that the referee was to blame. Wilder's torn bicep contributed to the loss. Mark Breland was disloyal by throwing in the towel. He shouldn't have thrown in the towel. Wilder wanted to go out on a shield. Mark Breland is now accused of spiking Deontay Wilder's water. Deontay Wilder is accusing Tyson Fury of tampering with the gloves, putting something hard in them. And remember, that's all from Deontay Wilder. That doesn't include the various iterations of the glove theory from his fans, which either claim he removed padding, or that he loaded gloves, or his fists were lower in the gloves. They just can't make up their minds. But regardless of which glove theory is in vogue at whatever time suits their own narrative this month or next, That's an incredible laundry list of excuses that Deontay Wilder has said from his own mouth. So what is it? Is it one of those things? Is it all of those things? Because the suggestion from Wilder is everything and everyone was against him. Some sort of mass conspiracy to make him lose that fight. And then throw this in. Just, this is in the mix as well here. If the gloves were tampered with in the way that Wilder is suggesting, then he also must be accusing the Nevada State Athletic Commission of being in on the conspiracy, as they inspected the hand wraps and also the gloves. And also, he must be implicating his own head trainer, JD's, as D's bore witness to the wraps being put on and the gloves going on as well, for both fights. So, D's either must be in on it or incompetent. It's got to be one of the two if Wilder is to be believed. But the sad reality with all this, Deontay Wilder just wasn't good enough on the night. And there is no shame in that. It's boxing after all. It's a fight. You're not guaranteed to win everything. All of these woeful excuses prove that his ego is so desperately bruised that he's clutching at straws, that he can't explain away the loss, that he is struggling to accept the loss, and he has to explain it away some other way. And it's gotten beyond a joke now. Wilder was beaten. It really just is that simple. Fury took away the right hand, and Wilder had no answer. He couldn't fight effectively on the inside and couldn't fight going backwards, and Fury just made Wilder look decidedly average for 7 rounds, took away the one trick that Deontay Wilder was known for, the right hand. And I think people forget that after the rematch and the first wave of excuses, and that went across social and mainstream media like wildfire. We can't forget that. Garnering international headlines for all the wrong reasons. There was a deliberate PR effort made to try shut all of that down. One, by saying Breland would be staying, and also he put out that Your King is Here video, and the idea was to try draw a line under the issues and move on. But now we have this Halloween video, some sort of, Halloween horror from Deontay Wilder that more resembles some sort of April Fool's joke. And just take a minute to spare a thought for Mark Breland. Not only was Breland the only one in Wilder's corner sparing a thought for Wilder's well-being as he was beaten up, this guy's been with Wilder since basically the beginning. He's been with him for more than a decade. He has been there. He knows him. He was an integral part of that camp. And now he's had to deal with multiple public roastings from Wilder, who's accused Breland now, more recently, of spiking his water. I mean, seriously, where is the proof? After the fight, the costume was blamed for weakening the legs, but now apparently it's the water that he was given supposedly by Breland. So if that's the case, wouldn't the post-fight drug test actually pick that up? And if not, I'm sure that the sample still exists. Test it. Share the results. Actually, show us some proof here. Where is the proof? Why wait basically 8 or 9 months to go into some of the stuff, these new excuses? And they are excuses. In general, the way that Breland has been hung out to dry here is shocking. And Wilder's comments about Breland, and for that matter, mostly everything else that he's been saying, classless, not befitting of a champion. And I know that there are some people who truly, deep down, are necking back these excuses without a second thought, not even second guessing the veracity of them. I've seen some of these people leaving comments, and in most cases, they're lost causes. Nothing I will say or you will say will change their mind. And of course, they are more than willing to scream and shout with little or no evidence. And actually, in response to those who say that I'm ignoring the evidence about the gloves or whatever, I'll say this. No, I'm not ignoring the evidence. I've examined it like everybody else. It's just not credible. It's been debunked by multiple fighters and experts alike. The whole thing, all the excuses, it reeks of desperation. And pushing that Glovegate narrative, especially when the narrative is like shifting sands, just make up your mind, stick with one theory. It's embarrassing. Embarrassing. And ironically, I had a fanboy try to get fancy and accuse me of making an ad hominem attack on Wilder, saying I was denying all the evidence rather than attacking the substance of the argument itself. But I will tell you this for free. The substance of the argument, the true substance of this argument, and let's be real here. Be real. The true substance of the argument is Deontay Wilder was beaten by a better fighter on the night, and that's boxing. And all these ridiculous excuses under the sun will not change the fact he was beaten. For a moment, I actually thought some of these new excuses, perhaps it was some sort of perverted marketing campaign, drum up some interest for the third fight. But it's clear to me, no, Wilder's crestfallen ego, it just can't handle this. He can't come to terms with this. And we also know there's been no change of substance in the training setup, so we probably shouldn't expect any adjustments of note. He doesn't believe that anything he did in the ring in terms of the performance was the issue. It's everything else outside of the ring or all the other excuses under the sun. So if and when he returns to the ring, which at this point, who knows, probably don't expect any changes, he'll be looking for a right hand because that's who Deontay Wilder really is. And with his recent statements, Wilder has also mentioned potential legal action. But whether that's real or hollow, I mean, anyone's guess here. But before I go, and I said I'd circle back to this, had multiple comments in a previous video denying that Wilder ever said anything about his costume being too heavy and that it was made up lies from the media or somewhere, other YouTubers, whatever. They wouldn't believe it, said it never happened. Now, this narrative, that's been pushed for a while now, and especially by pro-Wilder channels, hardcore Wilder fans that just can't accept that he did say it. That he came out with one of the most embarrassing excuses ever tendered by a professional fighter. And let's be clear, it fits into that category. Not only did he make that comment, but he made it to at least 3 print reporters in phone interviews in the week after the fight. And it is important because these costume deniers are clearly in La La Land and have not recovered from the autopsy. But first comment, Deontay Wilder made to Kevin Iole of Yahoo.com. He didn't hurt me, but the simple fact is my uniform was way too heavy for me. I didn't have no legs from the beginning of the fight. In the third round, my legs were just shot all the way, but I'm a warrior and people know that I'm a warrior. Lance Pugmire of The Athletic. I didn't expect it to be that heavy and have that effect on me. That's the thing we didn't test out walking to the ring. We didn't time it right. It's all my fault. It's a learning process. And Dan Rafael, who was with ESPN at the time, I paid a severe price because my legs were how they were because of my uniform. My uniform was too heavy. It was 40 plus pounds. We had it on 10 or 15 minutes before we even walked out and then put the helmet on. That was extra weight. Then the ring walk, then going up the stairs. It was like a real workout for my legs. When I took it off, I knew immediately that game has changed. I really let the designers freelance with it. It was really their idea. By the third round, I had no legs. I was completely done. My legs were gone. I had to step into survival mode very early. But you know me, I'm going out on my shield. I'm a fighter. I'm a warrior. That's what I do. All Deontay Wilder's statements to 3 different separate reporters. So I hope I put that issue to bed. He did say that. It did happen. Stop talking nonsense. And links to those stories are in the description box. And these so-called fans creating lies and false narratives for months, sometimes channels for money, all that sort of stuff, all avoiding the cold, hard reality. It was a fight and their man lost. So to wrap up this whole autopsy on this absolute madness, all I can say is, Deontay Wilder, just stop. Just stop with the excuses.